Regular Show is one of the main highlights of cartoons that came out during the 2010s. However, despite this, whenever the series is talked about online, the majority of the discussions are centered around one particular aspect of it, that being Mordecai's disastrous love life, which was so bad that the term simp has become popularized amongst animation fans. To be fair, the love triangle that Mordecai finds himself in, and the horrendous way he goes about handling it, has become infamous for all the right reasons. From misunderstandings, to infidelity, and even attempted murder. This was truly a messy storyline. And unfortunately, this infuriating plot began to hijack the series, resulting in a massive dip in quality that lasted for an entire season. Now, I have been a viewer of Regular Show from the very beginning, and I had witnessed this dumpster fire from start to finish. And let me tell you, witnessing a series that I held close to my heart go down in flames as the storyline unfolded felt as though I was getting stabbed in the back. So I made it my personal duty to tear the stupid love triangle apart. But before we get into that, I'd like to ask you guys to subscribe to my channel and hit the bell for notifications. Also, give this video a like and comment to help support my channel. It's easy, it's free, and you get entertaining content from me. Sounds like an awesome deal, doesn't it? Anyway, back to the video. Firstly, let's go all the way back to season 1 where it all began, where it is established that Mordecai has a crush on Margaret. However, this infatuation is completely one-sided, as they barely know each other. Mordecai claims that he's taking his time before getting to know her as part of his plan, when in reality, it's obvious that he just doesn't have the guts to ask her out. Now don't get me wrong, being nervous is relatable to an extent. However, in the case of this show, Mordecai's hesitance to confess his feelings just ends up being frustrating, especially since he's pretty much the ultimate simp. For those who are unfamiliar with the phrase, it's basically a slang term used to describe someone who will go out of their way to do something or act a certain way because they'll think it'll earn another person's affection. And there are several episodes where the whole plot is Mordecai doing something solely because he thinks it'll make Margaret like him. While there are actually a handful of other cartoon characters who do the same thing, Mordecai took this to such a ridiculous degree that the term is now associated with him. Even as a kid, characters doing this would frustrate me, as not only does it showcase a lack of self-respect, but also the idea that this would win over their love interest feels shallow. Regardless, Mordecai would do anything to win Margaret's heart, even murdering his own best friend. Wait, what? Yep. There was an episode where Rigby exposes Mordecai's BS by asking Margaret to go see a movie with him, and she accepts the invitation. This pisses off Mordecai to no end, acting like Rigby had betrayed him, as if he's entitled to Margaret. This leads to Mordecai trying to sabotage the date, which results in the usual crazy climaxes that Regular Show is known for, where he pushes Rigby to his step on impulse. I'll kill you! Rigby! Sure, he instantly regrets this action, and was given a second chance when time gets reverted back to the beginning of the incident, where he avoids making the same mistake. However, a noticeable trend with Mordecai is that for every step forward he takes, he then goes 10 steps back. At this point, you might be wondering, what is there to Margaret that makes Mordecai so obsessed with her? The answer? Nothing. For the first 2 seasons of the show, hardly any of Margaret's personality is showcased due to the relationship between her and Mordecai being completely one-sided and the focus being solely on his perspective. Margaret's also a bird just like Mordecai, except she's a girl and pretty, which makes her the idealistic partner for him. Now, I was a teenager when Regular Show first came out, so in that point in time, I was a cartoon watching veteran. And this sort of scenario was something that I've seen many other shows do before it, where the main character has a one-sided crush with another character who's pretty, with plenty of episodes revolving around them trying to win over their love interest. However, due to many of these shows being episodic, no real development came out of these relationships. And I was so convinced that was going to be the same case for Mordecai and Margaret. But to my surprise, Regular Show didn't stick to this stagnant format, and shook things up, with varying results. First, there was the introduction of CJ in the episode Yes Dude Yes. In this episode, Mordecai falls into a state of depression after thinking that Margaret has just gotten engaged, which is pretty ridiculous considering that the relationship was still one-sided at that point. Anyway, Rigby makes a profile for Mordecai on a dating site to help him move on, and it matches him with a crowd girl named CJ. Upon Mordecai informs her that he's not over his heartbreak, CJ suggests that they just hang out as friends, and from there, the two of them actually hit it off really well. They both has similar interests, which allows them to connect quickly. While Margaret had just been a dream girl to Mordecai up to this point, we see proper interactions between him and CJ, and they have actual chemistry, which makes her a far more suitable love interest. But oh no, plot twist! It turns out that Margaret isn't engaged, thus making her still available, which causes Mordecai to second guess himself on what he wants. This unfortunately leads him to ruining his potential relationship with CJ, and leaves him back at square one with Margaret. Oh come on, this is just like with Agarexco, where Hyder could have grown as a person and went for Inui, the woman who genuinely likes him, and one who he actually spent quality time with, but instead he chooses Resco, who he has no connection with, just so the writers can force their ship. But soon after this incident, something unexpected happens. Mordecai and Margaret's relationship started developing. In seasons 3 and 4, we see them becoming friends when hanging out with Rigby and Eileen. And we even start to see a bit more personality from Margaret, learning about her interests and goals. Which is a big improvement over being a blank slate who serves no other purpose other than being a love interest. At some point, there's even some mutual attraction from Margaret, which at the time was so unexpected because again, I was so used to one-sided romances from other shows that this caught me by surprise in a good way, to the point where I was actually rooting for her and Mordecai to get together. But looking back at this point in their relationship nowadays, there were still some blatant issues. For one, their chemistry is still as dull as ever, and we still had to go through several episodes of Mordecai being too spineless to express his feelings for Margaret. However, during season 4, Mordecai and Margaret finally become a couple after their first kiss in the episode Media Moves. Unless you count that other kiss that got erased due to time travel, back in the episode Bad Kiss. Again, since I assumed that this relationship would never go anywhere, seeing this unfold for the first time was incredible. But unfortunately, this doesn't last, as in the season 4 finale, Margaret reads Mordecai after getting accepted into her dream college that's far away.
I really like you, Mordecai, and what we have is special, but I may never get this opportunity again.
Leaving Mordecai devastated, and unlike the last time, he has every right to feel that way. However, after some time had passed, Mordecai claims that he's ready to get back onto the dating game. But around that same time, he encounters CJ once again, and although their reunion was initially awkward, the two of them are able to move on and become friends again. And it's not long before Mordecai starts developing feelings for CJ, which causes him to freak out because he's still holding on to the possibility of getting back together with Margaret. Well, so much for wanting to move on back on New Year's Eve. Now the show has some self-awareness as Mordecai's friends make fun of him for his usual awkwardness. However, despite this acknowledgement, the issue just repeats itself over and over again, and it gets frustrating. Trust me, overthinking and second-guessing yourself can be relatable. However, not only is this problem with Mordecai is exaggerated to such a ridiculous extent, but he's constantly regressing, making the same mistakes and never learning, which makes him a poorly developed character. Alright, tangent over, moving on. So by the end of the episode, Mordecai finally decides to take a chance with CJ, and from there the two of them start dating. Not gonna lie, when I saw this for the first time, I was pretty salty, because after seeing the relationship between Mordecai and Margaret develop over the course of several seasons, I've gotten pretty attached to their ship. So to have Mordecai get a new girlfriend just like that didn't sit right with me at the time. This isn't like with Finn from Adventure Time dating Flame Princess after a couple of seasons of Princess Bubblegum being his love interest, as those two were never a thing. When you have two characters who are a couple, people are inevitably going to get invested in their relationship. This is why Ben 10 fans were so fond of Ben and Julie despite not being the best friend and couple, and were enraged with how poorly their breakup was handled. With that being said, taking a fresh look at this series after many years, I now consider this to be an excellent direction for the show to take. Like I said before, Mordecai and CJ have good chemistry, and having common interests make them feel like an actual couple, as opposed to Mordecai's relationship with Margaret, which felt more like an idealistic fantasy upon reflection. What's also interesting is that unlike with Mordecai and Margaret, who took several seasons to get together, Mordecai and CJ became a couple in just a few episodes. Even nowadays, most shows will drag out a potential ship for far too long, so this is refreshing. What's great is that we actually get to see these characters act as a couple and overcome conflicts as a team, rather than remaining stagnant. But unfortunately, all good things must come to an end, and this happens to Mordecai and CJ in the worst way imaginable. This part of the story begins in the season 6 episode, Merry Christmas Mordecai, where Mordecai freaks out after finding out that Margaret's back in town, as he feels awkward about seeing his ex again, and becomes paranoid that CJ might misinterpret this as him still having feelings for her. Later that episode at Eileen's Christmas party, Mordecai is able to explain his situation to CJ CJ and assures her that he no longer has feelings for Margaret, and she tells him that she trusts him without a doubt. And then comes the inevitable reunion between Mordecai and Margaret, and although he's initially hesitant to face her at first, Mordecai finally tells her about CJ, and that he's happy with her now, and Margaret accepts this, and holds no ill will towards him, which gives these two the closure they never got, allowing them to move on as friends. You see, Mordecai, instead of overthinking, all you had to do was be honest for everything to turn out right, and wait a minute, why are we having a memory montage? Oh no. No!
No!
Oh my god. Mordecai? No, it's not.
CJ, wait!
Why? Just why? You had the perfect resolution right there that satisfies everyone! Well, anyway, CJ does give Mordecai a second chance in the next episode after he gives her an honest explanation. Again. However, from there, we don't get to see much of them being a couple due to the continuing tension between them and Margaret. Most of Season 6 revolves around this obnoxious love triangle, making it easily the worst in the entire series. This could have been avoided if they stuck with the initial resolution in Merry Christmas, Mordecai. Anyway, the next major incident in this storyline comes in the episode Thousand Chopper Fright Party, where Mordecai is invited as the special guest for the 1000th flight of Chopper 6, which is initially awkward for him because Margaret is also there, but she assures him that she just wants the two of them to be friends again, which allows Mordecai to relax and for the two of them to start having fun together. However, CJ then arrives at the party unexpectedly, and when she sees Mordecai and Margaret laughing together, she immediately assumes that he's cheating on her again, and she becomes a storm and literally attempts to murder all of them.
You think I wouldn't find out? That you could just make a fool of me forever?
Look, I understand CJ having trust issues and assuming the worst. After all, Mordecai did betray her trust. However, she completely crossed the line here. In just one scene, she went from someone I felt sorry for to being the absolute worst person involved in this love triangle. Anyway, Margaret then reveals that she has a boyfriend, which causes CJ to calm down and become apologetic. Although Mordecai looked sad when Margaret revealed that. So, does that mean he still likes her? Even after all those times he said that he was happy with CJ? Wow. He really is just a two-timing jerk, isn't he? But wait, there's more. As it turns out that Margaret lied about having a boyfriend, and when CJ finds out about this, she becomes mad and accuses her of still liking Mordecai, to which she admits to. Okay, this is a situation where I find both characters here to be in the wrong. On the one hand, Margaret had the lie in that moment, as it was the only way to stop CJ from attacking her. And I just can't side with CJ, because again, she attempted murder over a misunderstanding. So she's in no position to be calling anyone out. With that being said, it also wasn't a good look for Margaret to continue the lie, and then admitting to still having feelings for Mordecai when she had been trying to hang out with him again after all this time. Plus, she also kissed him in Merry Christmas, Mordecai, knowing that he has a girlfriend. Now everyone talks about this line for how real it feels.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to start over.
Seems like everyone always wants to start over. Why don't you guys just get it right the first time?
And boy, do I have some notes. Firstly, this is exactly what the audience who had been subjected to this nonsense was thinking. 2, this line should have been directed at Mordecai, as he's the one who keeps regressing and repeating the same mistakes out of the three of them. Thirdly, CJ, did you get it right the first time when you attacked Margaret? And finally, while I can sort of see how this line resonates with people on an emotional level, it's also not realistic, as nobody makes the right decision 100% of the time. Alright, I guess that now brings us to the Season 6 finale, which has the most infamous moment in the entire show. So it's Muscle Man's wedding day, and Mordecai is once again feeling awkward, as now he's confused about his feelings for Margaret and CJ. When the ceremony begins, Muscle Man asks Mordecai to read a letter his father left for him for this day. The advice that Muscle Man's dad gives is about following your gut. And Mordecai comes to the realization that that's what he should have been doing instead of overthinking his situation. But then, in the cringiest scene in all of animation, Mordecai hijacks his friend's wedding in order to give a speech about his self-discovery.
This to you, Muscle Dad is right. Finding the right person is hard. You know, for a while, I've been telling myself there's no such thing as soulmates. But now I'm not so sure.
And as he rambles on, it sounds like that he's planning on dumping CJ for Margaret, which understandably upsets her, and she storms up. Seriously, dude? You are really just gonna break up with her in front of all these people at a wedding? Not cool, dude. Not cool. In the final scene of the episode, it's confirmed that Mordecai and CJ have ended their relationship. So, with everything that has happened, the implication seems to be that Mordecai and Margaret are going to get back together at some point, right? Well, actually, no. They just continue being friends. Which brings up the question, what was the point of all of that then? It's frustrating how we could have gotten a mature resolution of Mordecai moving on from Margaret and being with CJ, along with him growing out of his insecurities, only for him to keep stepping backwards in his development, leading to a generic love triangle plot that ruins many of the characters and the show for nothing. However, Mordecai's love life doesn't end there. As in the series finale, we see Mordecai meet another woman during a time skip montage. And afterwards, it's established that they've gotten married and had 3 kids together. Nothing is revealed to us about who this woman is or Mordecai's relationship with her, which is interesting to say the least. And honestly, it was the best direction at this point. After all, Mordecai had already ruined his chances with both Margaret and CJ, and it seems that throughout the years, Mordecai had finally matured to the point where he's able to have a successful relationship without getting in his own way. Although, this character growth could have happened way back in Merry Christmas Mordecai, and this whole mess could have been avoided, and we wouldn't have to rely on development that happens off screen. Just saying. And that was my video on Regular Show's Infinite Love Triangle. If you enjoyed this video, then be sure to subscribe to my channel and hit the bell for notifications. Also give this video a like and comment. Also, if you're interested in supporting this channel, then head over to my Patreon. Well, I got nothing else to say, so see ya.